Good evening, good morning, and good night. Welcome to Inappropriate Radio. It's your host, Tashana, the hostess with the mostest, the snagger-tooth one. Let's get into this. So, hi guys. Tonight we are gonna be discussing superstition. All right. Now, I wanted to, like we usually do, start out with a definition. Okay, so superstition is defined as a widely held but unjustified belief in supernatural causation leading to consequences of an action or event or a practice based on such a belief. Another one that popped up that wasn't like from the dictionary was a belief or practice resulting from ignorance, fear of the unknown, trust in magic, chance, or false conception. So of course we know a lot of these different superstitions, right? No, I was not listening to Mr. Wonder. I was not, I promise. Friday the 13th, throwing salt over your shoulder, the itchy palms, knocking on wood, walking under a ladder, broken mirrors, black cats, umbrellas opening doors, 4-leaf clovers, purses on the floor, sweeping at night, sweeping your foot. Now, some of these have positive connotations, right? Like the 4-leaf clover, the itchy palm, the charms, empty bottles on the floor, right? Those have good, are believed anyway to have good results. Now, I want to first point out that the main source, right, of these superstitions are fear, because I'm going to ask this. What happens if you don't get to reverse the superstition or carry out the act that stops the result, right? For the ones that are bad anyway, right? So that would be the first question that we're posing. We didn't even get to the main question, but that's just to structure the conversation and give you an idea of where we're going with this, okay? And the next thing we need to pay attention to is that superstition removes the process of good decision making. Now, of course, some things can't be undone, right? Some things are just simply mistakes, right? It's just mishaps. These things happen, okay? Of course, cultural traditions and personal experiences are factors in whether you believe in these superstitions or not. And like I said, it's not all bad, right? However, these are things that we consider to be superstitions. Now, when asked, most people can't even tell you where this superstition comes from, right? They just grew up being taught this particular thing. It's basically forcing a belief, right? And this is kind of where God started, taking me somewhere. He's like, same thing with me. All right. A lot of people think that God is just superstition, folklore. They don't believe, right? Because they haven't experienced God in ways that they feel is pleasing to their palates, or it doesn't satisfy their questions and their imagination. So let's just kind of look at some of these things, right? Since we're saying that this is forcing a belief, and it's very similar to God, right? And or religion or spirituality. I guess spirituality could be a little more different because it has more of a subjective basis to it, meaning your own personal experiences and beliefs and understanding and perception will guide you, and it will guide your thoughts and your belief in the ways that you practice. with the superstition, there's less of a physical basis or a premise to this, okay? Now, because this thing is contingent upon culture, you have to ask yourself, like, how do these superstitions get to travel, and why do they have various meanings? So I'll give you one, like the broom, right? If your foot is swept, they said that it's bad luck. In some cultures, other cultures says that it means you won't get married, right? Now, let's kind of focus on your first experience with superstition, okay? What we're doing here right now is trying to unravel and unlearn some of the things that we've grown to believe are substantial or hold enough weight in order for us to be able to base an idea or a concept or justify a behavior, right? So that's what we're doing right now, okay? Think back to your first memory, if you can, of your first transaction or lesson about a superstition, or a lesson that is based around superstition. Think about the setting. Think about exactly what the scenario was. Like, where were you? And think about exactly what happened to cause this conversation to even come up. And then think about the person. All of this is important. We know when things come up, if we can't really pinpoint where this stuff is coming from, or the root rather, we kind of mix stuff up, or we just go along with it, right? Because it's what the elders taught us about, and it's not really anything wrong with that. But how much research and time have you invested in investigating this thing on your own? And this is important because a lot of these things hold weight in our spirits, and we're carrying these things with us in our subconscious, not realizing that we're feeding an idea or a concept with much of our energy, because we're giving it a belief. It's holding weight because we believe it to be true. Okay? That's important. I think they call it idolatry, or there's a lot of different names for it, but I know in the Bible it's called idolatry. Okay? You have to understand that God is way more than a superstition. And this is way beyond being able to read a religious text to give you proof or guidance or to convince you, right? We can look around and see that many of the things that are here, humans are incapable of producing, right? The sun, the different species of animals, the different species of humans, the different concepts and cultures that are related to us, meaning geographically, spiritually, the galaxy, right? We can't make stars, we can't make moons, we can't make oceans. And we've had that conversation before, right? We all know that. But the premise of the conversation here is to just really be careful on how we perceive God and what we compare God to, in the type of spaces that we put ourselves in spiritually when we feed it our energy, okay? It's very important for you to understand where things are coming from. Now, when we get to God, and this is where he started taking me into how and why it's so hard. And yes, we've had this conversation, right? Not having a base, not having something tangible to prove. And this is what he was getting at. This is what he was trying to get me to pay attention to. Okay? I knew that a lot of the different concepts in the stories and all of these sacred books, a lot of them can be contradictory, right? However, when it comes to spiritual warfare, If you know that you've been attacked, if you know your bloodline has particular patterns, I know like some people, some families, all of their men get killed or they die young from drug overdose. And that's just one example, right? And that is bloodline related. The overall concept here is to imagine the benefit of having the relationship with the Creator. With this superstition, we don't necessarily have a benefit, right? It's fear-based. It's based off of something with an unknown root. You can't really give it a cause or pinpoint it. You just know it's something that's been passed on, similar to folklore, right? It's been passed on by the elders, like what to do, what not to do. If this happens, this is what it means. This is how you combat it. We rarely get information or knowledge on how to support things that we feel can attack us. Okay? So you want to be able to place yourself in a mindset that gives you an idea on how to think on different terms other than what you're thinking now. You can't assume, and you have to be willing to invest the time in finding out, right? With these superstitions, they can go as far back as humankind has started, but we don't necessarily have a date or a time or a place or a real rhyme and reason for these rules, if you will, of the spiritual world, because that's pretty much what they would be, right? Don't do this or do that. If this happens, that happens. It's all mystical. It's all supernatural, natural. It's all unseen. It's not like we have a premise or a base for these superstitions. So you have to think, what is all of this about? And I'm not denying it. And I'm not saying the person who's giving you this information is a non-credible source or they are a credible source. I'm saying that God wanted me to go into this to make the distinction between what the unseen does as far as believing in things that make no sense, believing in things that, and yes, we may see some consistency, right? Your palm may itch, you'll get some money. You might find a 4-leaf clover and find that you really do have good luck since you found it. Maybe you don't put your purse on the floor, and maybe you found that every time you do, it allows you to lose money, so you don't do it, right? I'm not saying there's no consistency, but I'm saying that this is based on a fear, is based on the unknown. Oh, if my hand itches and I don't put it in my pocket, or if I scratch it, I'm going to lose it. Or you understand? With God, it's not like that. It's a bunch of certainties. You don't have to have fear, and you don't even have to be uncertain most of the time, because God will convey to you what it is that he needs you to do in order for certain things to happen. Remember, everything is connected. It's just one big chain of events, like dominoes, right? One thing after the other. So before we go, I want you to really think about the things that stick out to you as far as the superstitions. Like, out of all the ones that you know, what do you actually believe to be true, and why, and who introduced this to you? Because the person that introduced it to you, you might have some sort of spiritual link to them that is connected to that particular superstition. So I'll give you an example. Let's just say with the sweeping foot, okay? It brings you bad luck if you don't spit on the broom, okay? What happens if you don't spit on the broom, number one? And then let's say you do spit on the broom. This person that introduced you to this, and this person, no matter who they are, whether they're family or friend, whatever, what type of connection do you have with them in the spirit realm and the physical? All right. But I'm going to leave it there. I do hope you guys All right, drinking your water. I hope you are resting. I hope you are enjoying your weekend, eating your fruit and vegetables, and sipping on your own tea because it's free. And I'm going to catch y'all on the flip side. All right.